Hey everyone out there, I'm Sam from SC Guided Fishing. Today we're going to teach you everything you need to know about back bouncing, and that's coming up next.
Got him.
That was awesome. Thanks, dude.
Alright, so we're going to start with a rod. Today we're using a Akuma X hover rod. It's a 7'10", 10 to 25 pound. These are nice rods, but you're looking for anything in that like 7 foot to kind of 9 foot range. You don't want a big long rod for back bouncing. It really helps to kind of have a shorter, smaller rod to handle. Anything in that like 10 to 25, 10 to 30 range is going to do really good for you. So we're using an Akuma Hakai reel. Anywhere from like a 2000 to 3000 series reel is going to do good for you, be able to handle good Chinook. It's going to hold enough line, do anything you need. We're using 50-pound Addicted Enforcer braid. Color doesn't matter a whole lot. I do prefer like a brighter yellow, orange, or anything like that for line, but a 50-pound braid, you definitely want braided line to help keep from pushing your stuff down the current. One thing about this fishery is it's really important to have a rod that's sensitive around in the tip, and also run a bait caster. I'll show you later in this tutorial why that's important, but you do not want to back bounce with a spinning rod. You definitely want a bait caster. All right, so now let's get into the rigging. We'll show everyone how we do this. So first, what I start with is I take the braid and I just slide a bead right up the line. So I'm gonna get this thing in here. So slide a bead up the line, and then next we're gonna just slide a barrel swivel up the line. You're not gonna tie this on. That's just gonna slide freely up and down the line. That's what we're gonna attach our lead to. And then next, you're just gonna slide another bead right up the line. And what this bead's gonna do is this bead's gonna protect your knots on this next barrel swivel. So should look something like that. And so once we got our beads and our barrel swivel slid up the line, we're gonna grab another barrel swivel. And I like to tie a Palomar knot, but make a little loop, thread that through. And it's always important to wet your knots, especially with braided line. Give it a little lick, pull it tight. Just like that. So this should all slide down to that barrel swivel right there. Always cut your tag ends. Throw them away. Don't throw them in the river. Throw them in a tackle box, take them out later, put them in the trash. So now that we got our barrel swivel tied on, the barrel swivel slid up the line, next what we're gonna do is, I have some 25-pound, this is 25-pound fluorocarbon. Any sort of fluorocarbon is gonna work. And I'm just gonna pull off, 2 to 3 feet, somewhere in there. I usually go around like 2.5 feet, something like that. I don't really measure. And we're just gonna tie this on to our barrel swivel that is tied onto the line. You don't want it on the one sliding up and down. You want it on the one that is tied in to the line right there. So we're gonna tie this on. Just a little clinch knot. Pull that tight. And then next, once I have that on the line, I have these floats. So these are just little pill looking foam floats. A lot of guys can use corkies. I use black. That way this is gonna float in the middle of your line, kind of keep your eggs lifted up, and it's gonna help keep you from getting snagged down on the bottom. And another reason I run black is just so that it's not something fish are gonna key in on. If you had a bright color, maybe a fish would hit that and you're gonna have false bites. I just wanna get, eliminate all that. I don't want them to see it, but I just slide those. These ones are a little small, so I'm gonna run 2. Help really get some float on there. Once I got those slid up my line, I'm just gonna go ahead and tie on another barrel swivel onto my line here. So now that should come to the middle of my leader and just sit right on those barrel swivels right there. And so my next step, I'm gonna get about the same length of line, 2.5 feet or so of 20 pound. And so the reason you go 25 pound down to 20 pound is so that if your hook gets snagged, the 20 pound will break off before you lose the rest of this leader, and you're only tying the bottom half of your leader. You know, it's just easier. If you were to run 20 pound on both, it could break up here and you'd have to just retie the entire setup. So always staggering your line strength all the way down the rod to your hook. So now we have this 20 pound. I have a 4/0 Addicted Advantage hook, salmon hook, and you just want to tie just a basic egg loop on here. So put it through, wrap up the hook a good, 15, 20 times, something like that. Pinch it, bring the tag end through where it's just barely through, and then continue those wraps up the hook over the top of that line that's laying flat there. You only need 4 or 5 wraps or so. Give it a good lick and then pull this line right through, and that should snug up that knot really nice and good. And then you have an egg loop for something that, and we'll go through that here in a minute. So once I get my egg loop tied, something I like to do is I like to just put a little corky. We have a yellow and orange, just a basic corky down that's gonna sit on top of the hook. That's also gonna provide flotation on your eggs and kind of keep them off the bottom and help it keep from getting snagged. It's also gonna add a little bit of color to your bait. That way, something for the fish to key in on. It's gonna have them, they'll see that, maybe they'll come over and investigate. It just helps add to the presentation of your bait. So now, once we got our leader tied, we're gonna go back to that swivel that we tied where the floats are, and we're just gonna tie that leader onto that swivel by the floats. Now, what you should have is your beads with a barrel swivel, just sliding on the line, tied to a barrel swivel, 2.5 feet of 25 pound to your floats and another barrel swivel, and then about 2.5 feet of leader to your salmon hook and an egg loop and a corky. And once you have all that tied on, you want to go back up to this barrel swivel that we slid up the line earlier, and we have some P-line 17 pound, and all you're gonna do is you just need probably 7-8 inches of line, and you're gonna create a dropper for something to tie your lead onto. Okay, so we'll just pull off 7-8 inches or so, and then tie that directly on to that swivel that is sliding on your line. Now once you have that tied on, you want to go back down to the bottom of that short little section, and a lot of guys will just put a loop on the end of it if you don't want to lose duo locks, or maybe you don't have any. I prefer to put a duo lock swivel. I think it's easier to transfer lead or switch them out because you're constantly changing lead depending on the flow and the hole that you're in. So I just tie that onto the end of the little dropper here. Trim that, and then for this run we're running a 2-ounce lead, but it's going to depend on flow, and normally in my boat I'm carrying 1 ounce to 8 ounces of lead, but you're going to switch those around. So alright addicts, so now we're going to get into baiting this up. I like to run sand shrimp, and this is a big sand shrimp, so I'm going to run the tail. I'm going to rip them in half. The head will work too, so we'll just set that aside. And I like to go through the middle of the tail right here and just all the way through, but not pulling it over my hook, just leaving it right there. You grab your betta eggs here, and there's 2 sides to eggs, so you're gonna have the skin side, and then you're gonna have the more berry side. Doesn't really matter what you start with, but I like to just start hooking it in and going through that layer of skin. So I hook it about 3 times, kind of fold it. You want to open your egg loop, get around, grab that whole bait of eggs and that shrimp, and then just snug your line tight. You don't want to pull really hard because that line will cut your entire bait. And I like to kind of ball it up in my hand as I pull a little bit, and that's going to help get it into a perfect circle. Another thing that's super important is having multiple different cures of eggs. Bring in sand shrimp. Sometimes I'll have tuna belly. Today this is what's working for us. We're catching them with sand shrimp and eggs. But having tuna belly, sand shrimp, anchovies or herring slices, anything like that that you can add to your bait is really important. Just having a wide variety of different things. And as you can see, we got 6-7 different bags of eggs. We got tuna belly that's salted up and sand shrimp and all sorts of different things. It's really important to come to the river prepared, having everything you can in your back pocket, so to say. Another thing to separate yourself from the other people is having a bunch of different scents in the boat. You know, sardine oil, bloody tuna, sand shrimp, anything you can just add to your baits that'll, you know, set you apart. We have squid oil, anything. These ProCure baits work really good, so anything like that can just help set you apart from others. All right, addicts, so now we're going to show you some of the holes that we fish when you're looking for back bouncing spots. You want to anchor up above the hole where you're going to fish. You want to be, you know, 20-30 feet above where you're going to fish, because you're going to be backing that stuff down into them. So right now we're sitting on a hole where it's about, you know, 4 or 5 feet deep where the boat's sitting, but we're backing it down into a spot that's, you know, 8, 9, 10 feet deep in front of us that has good flow, so it'll carry everything back. We're going to drop this into the water, and the key here is you want to be able to have with your bait casters, this is going back to what we were talking about earlier, is something you can control all basically with one hand. You can control letting out line, clicking over, reeling up, and so you just want to start letting line down into this hole until it hits the bottom. So once you feel the bottom for the first time is right there, and then you want to stop it, and you just want to slowly lift your rod and let out line until you hit bottom. And what you're doing is you're lifting it up off the bottom, letting the current catch it, and just carry it down the entire run. And then what I do is I hit bottom and I stop for just a couple seconds, slow lift, drop it back down. And as you work it out further, it's going to slow down. You're going to have a lot smaller movements. You're only going to be moving somewhere, you know, 5-6 inches of line at a time, and that's okay. Just slowly working it down into this run. Just nice gentle lifts and dropping it back down, letting out line with every lift. Another thing that helps is kind of holding your rod tip really high up in the air, because that's going to allow you to just get further back into those runs, deep down into those holes. So when determining how much weight you want to use for runs like this, you want to be able to back bounce slowly. If it's just screaming line off your reel, you need to heavy up. If you're back bouncing, you drop it in and it just stays right at the front of the boat, you want to get a little bit lighter. So you're trying to find that perfect balance where it's not going out super fast, but it's going, you know, nice and steady and even pace down through the run. So changing leads and just trying to get to that, you know, happy medium where you can slowly work it down. This is a fishery where you're gonna feel the bite. Sometimes it'll just feel like a little trout nibble. You're gonna feel them just tapping on it. You wanna really let them eat it. So there it is, I'm getting bit right now. But let them eat it, let them take it down in a slow lift and reel tight into that fish. A lot of the time I let my reel on free spool, and as soon as I get bit, I click it over and then just keep it tight. Oh, there we go, I'm getting bit right there. So you're gonna feel it kind of just start pulling on the rod. That was a bite, addicts. Really like to get one for you guys on this tutorial, but I think we can make it happen. All right, so we're gonna show you a couple of different spots that we're gonna back bounce in later down river. Just some different areas, kind of what you're looking for in a run to fish. Yeah, so we're in a new spot here. This spot's a little different than the last one. This is got a lot of current funneling into the corner here, but there's still a good even flow throughout most of it. This drops off into a lot deeper hole than the last one, and it's a little bit slower, so we're running a little bit lighter lead. We got a 1 ounce on here, and we're just gonna back down in there and see what happens. So this hole's a little bit different than the other holes we were back bouncing. We're at the point of an island here. We have a good little seam that comes into a deep bucket right below us. And it's got, with the point of the island, you have two different currents kind of throwing a good line that runs down. And a lot of these fish will just sit right on that current seam. So kind of just backing it down and trying to run along this current seam can hold a lot of fish and produce a lot of fish in certain days. All right, so we've fished a couple holes now, and now we're gonna cut to some shots of this technique in action.
Fish. Fish. Yep.
Sam's on! Sam's on!
I thought you were pulling it out of the snag, dude. Me too.
Look at that, addicts. Beautiful coastal fall chinook.
I got him. Yep. Oh,
Nice.
yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, it's a really good one, dude. It's a really good one.
The polar again?
He's going, dude.
It's like another chromie. Ooh, yeah, that's a better fish, for sure.
Oh, that's a good one.
That's a better fish.
That's a big one.
Look at that one, guys. That's a good fish. Holy crap.
That's definitely an upper caliber fish, for sure.
What a fish. That was fun, dude. Got him. Nice. Oh, it's a really nice one. That's how we like them. Oh, yeah.
Well, thanks for watching. If you liked the video, give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you guys on the water.